Greetings. I'm Ken Hamilton, and I want to invite you to go on a half-hour journey with me, exploring the reasons why we live. It's a presentation I've created called Discovering the Why of Life. These are the existential questions. And my experience is with hope, healing a person's exceptional, and healing, and I'd like to share that with you. Come with me. I'd like to take you on a short outline of what we're going to look at over this coming half hour. The meanings of hope and healing. They've been around for a long, long time. Hope is an attitude, healing is an action. All right? And so we go on from there to the art of medicine. Now, I'm a physician, and I went to a medical school that emphasized the learning to use the art of medicine in our relationship to our patients. Now, that was back in the late 50s, and we seem to have had our artistic nature as physicians suppressed by a very tough situation that we're in the process of working through, as far as I'm concerned, working through right now. Now, the art of medicine consists of asking questions. It's kind of hard to find doctors who ask questions today. And there are two core questions that come up, one of which is who, and the other of which is what. We'll explore that. There's a secularity to the what and a spirituality to the who. And then the most important thing is about listening to what comes back. And we'll look at a Quaker phenomenon that grew out of the 1950s called holy listening and what that actually means. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's been an intimate part of my experience as a McGill graduate whose responsibility to his patients is to help them get on with their lives. Primary responsibility. In 1987, I convened a supportive group in my surgical practice for people with cancer, and they chose to call themselves a Hope group. And so we'll look at what Hope groups do. I've got over 5,000 Hope group meetings behind me, and Hope has trained others, and so we have 6,000 plus Hope group meetings. I think we finally figured out what we do. And so all of this process for me is discovering the why of life. Is about expanding our viewpoint of ourselves and others and our world and even the universe. I enjoy this journey, so I'll share it with you. Hope now, the attitude. And it's not about optimism, to Václav Havel, who was the poet and playwright and president of the Czech Republic. Lovely guy. Now, for Havel, hope is a state of the mind, not of the world. It's a dimension of the soul. And it is the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. That's a lot different than optimism or the conviction that things are going to work out all right. Okay? Healing comes from the old German, and the word in German is literally pronounced hail. Well, there's an English word that goes along with that, hail, like it's hale and hearty. Healing is about becoming whole, bringing all of your fragments together and becoming a whole human being. So holistic is in there, and interestingly and beautifully enough, key word there is holy, is also derived from the same word. So this makes this more than just a body-mind function. You're not just a body, you're not just a mind, you are far greater than that. We'll explore that. Your body-mind, limited, is your ego. And one of the things about ego is understanding that the letters stand for, in the 12-step recovery program, edge God out. So hell is a spiritual phenomenon. And as such, we need to look at the soul. Soul is a word that's coming back to us. It was taken away by the scientific, mind-focused, reason-focused age of reason in the beginning of the 17th century. Why? How? Its existence could not be scientifically proven. That was a mindset that persists to this day. I know physicians who practice medicine with that in mind. You know, if you can't scientifically prove its existence, it ain't real, the stuff. You I have an issue with that. In what's known as the great chain of being, the body is encompassed by the mind, which is encompassed by the soul, which is encompassed by the spirit. So for me, soul is the bridge between my body, mind, ego, and the spirit, which is, go with the word, the meaning of the word spirit. In all languages, it boils down to breath, air. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but you know it's there because it's essential to life. So there. This is the great chain of being. It's a part of spiritual traditions. It goes back thousands of years. Healing is the art of medicine. Treating and curing is the science of medicine. And the two should never compete. They need to flow together. And healing, to a Megillah, is helping patients get on with their lives. I was taught that I was not to use prognosis for my patients because that was limiting their lives. I was taught to involve them in an understanding and appreciation of what's going on in themselves. And if it's serious, tell them so and advise them to get their affairs in order. And then promise them that you will do everything in your power to help them get on with their lives. This is what gives meaning to all life. Getting on with your life. And if we can stop trying to identify ourselves with our diseases and identify ourselves with something that's far greater than that, then this is what the power of meaning is all about. It's answering that why question. Most kids ask their parents and others, why am I here? I didn't ask that. I asked, where did I come from, Mommy? I remember it was yesterday, and I was a pretty small guy. She said, right from my tummy, dear. That wasn't the answer I was looking for. I never asked her again. So as I've grown up, I know what I was looking for. Where did I come from? And this is something that I know people experience. I was talking with somebody, a dear friend, yesterday about where did I come from. And she said that she, for some reason or another, found herself visiting Graz, Austria. And she knew that was where she came from. Though she has nothing genetically or in the family traditions, she knew she was home, where she had come into existence, Graz, Austria. For me, so the Standing Stones of Kalinish, one of the northernmost Outer Hebridean islands. Now, the art of medicine is an art of setting up something that the Quakers have been using for 300 years to serve them in the absence of a pastor or minister. And it's called the Clearness Committee. A person with a concern is looking to get clear about what they need to do. And in a Clearness Committee, the responsibility is to listen to the person with an open heart and open mind. And that process is, to a Quaker by the name of Douglas Van Steer, one of my professors at Harvard College, a process he called holy listening. And the phrase turns up in a 1955 speech that he gave to the British Society of Friends at their annual meeting. To steer, holy listening listens a soul into life. Right? Listens a soul into life. It's powerful, powerful, powerful. Through a process of discernment and discovery. And to discern is to look at all the pieces that's coming forward to you from that person with the concept. Discern, look at them, but don't judge. Don't judge, they're simply there. And then the process goes on through this discernment, through discovery. In other words, I might see patterns in what's coming before me. And that process of discovery is something that I can share back to the person. And that is the process of reflecting. So I ask open questions. I want the patient's own answers. I discover and discern and reflect that back to my patient. And then I affirm the patient for the work that she or he is doing on getting on with her own life. The existential question: why am I alive? Well, that's been explored by philosophers for skidly years. And Friedrich Nietzsche, the German, said those who have a why to live for can withstand any how. Now, the person who embodied that for me is the Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who, because he was Jewish and the Nazis were finished with his professional help in 1942, got sent to Auschwitz, which was the first of 4 concentration camps. And he was on a death list again and again and again, but he made it through by using his mind to focus on what he wanted to have happen. And that focus was on bringing a process of psychotherapy to the world called meaning therapy in English, logotherapy in German. And for him, those who survived all had a meaning which gave their life reason to go on. And the other thing that he found was an attitude called love. He was dying of typhus, which is something that many, many, many inmates died of. Their immune system just went down, and there were lice that spread it. He was dying of typhus, knew that if he shut his eyes, he wouldn't wake up. So he propped his eyelids open, and in a loving gesture, one of his medical colleagues in another barracks stole food and brought it to him. If they'd ever caught that man, he would have been shot on the spot. But it didn't happen. And Viktor Frankl gets out, and he says, I found the meaning of life in Auschwitz. And then, having recovered his health, a year later after he got out, odds of making it, 1 in 27, he got his health back, hired 3 stenographers, and kept them busy for 3 days straight, producing the book that in English is called Man's Search for Meaning. And the last issue of that, edition of that, was published by Beacon Press in 2005. It's a beautiful read. It's half the biographical aspects of his experience and half the therapeutic aspects of logotherapy. So, my way of saying the existential answer to what's going on here is this. You are writing an important volume in the annals of universal life. I have a belief system that says, I live because the universe is alive. I have a body because the universe has a body. I have a mind because the universe has a mind. And I love, which means I have a relationship, because the universe is love. And we have some powerful messages around that today. Now, my experience with all of the H.O.P.E work and study is that life has given you all the resources that make it possible for you to experience that part of the truth. The Hindu philosopher Krishnamurti said, the truth is a pathless land. And so the thing of it is, you've got a path through that land. And my encouragement is for you to follow it. And as you do, communicate it to others. What are the resources I'm talking about? Well, there are 2. One is secular, that's the what of your being, and the other is spiritual, the who of your being. So what? What do you have? You've got physical possessions. I've got a car, I've got a home, I've got a few other gizmos. In some philosophies, I have a wife. No. I share my home with a lovely woman to whom I've been married for a whole bunch of years. She's not a possession of me. Right? So I have those physical possessions, and then I have my DNA gifts, which are physical possessions. I've got this body, this form. I have the gender. That's part of me, is my gender. But my DNA contributes to my talents, my talent, my personality. Okay? So that's pretty powerful. Okay? But it doesn't mean that you're limited to all of this. Any more than the whole question is, what have I done? What have you done? The hard question. Yeah, sure. I've graduated from McGill and I graduated from Haverford and I practiced surgery and all this sort of stuff. So that's stuff I've done. But that's outside of me. And then the last one, what do others think of me? What of you? That's all outside. Right? Now, take time out. Take time out on that. And let's get on to the next thing, which is the who of it, the spiritual question. And this is another Quaker now. If I'm biased towards Quaker, understand that I read the book about the little Quaker girl back when I was 6 years old, and it was the end. And that was when I started becoming a convinced friend. Right? Parker Palmer is a convinced friend. He wasn't a birthright Quaker. He's a convinced friend and a lovely educator with a beautiful mind. So look at this first question. Is the life I am living the same as the life that wants to live in me? The life that wants to live in me? And then he goes on to say, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. And the reference is his book, Let Your Life Speak. Published in 1999. Beautiful, easy reading. Who you are comes to me from Henry Nouwen. He says you're a call called to life by life itself. Being thus called, he said, you are a blessing. You've been blessed by life with that call. And one of the most important things that we can add, understanding, the word is gratitude. Thank you for having called me and blessed me. But you know, I probably, possibly like you, have forgotten what your call is. Forgotten what your call is. And so life will get you one upside the head with a cosmic do-life in order to get your attention to what it puts you here to do. All right? Life reminds you of your call. Breaking hurts. And we'll look at one right away. Nouwen says that your breaking becomes your gift to life. You have something to give life. Now, if you see your breaking as a curse, you're going to give a curse. And you know what? The law of return says you're going to get cursed back. And so, is it a blessing? Well, you know what? Give life a blessing with gratitude, and you're going to get a blessing and gratitude back. And this is, philosophically speaking, and we're beginning to really catch on to this, that blessing or curse, you're helping life to evolve in any case. We can't really move forward in our blessing without being able to look at how curse floats around in our reality. It's everywhere. And if we try and deny it, put our back to it, it's going to bite you right in that cheek. It's going to get you. And that's something that's in the recovery circles, been around for quite a while. Pay attention to it. So you're going to help life evolve, and life is going to really work with you to give you this message that it brought you here to serve. So Nouwen says, if you're seeing it as a curse, reach out take the blessing in gratitude and put your curse back under them. Here's Parker Palmer on breaking. He talks about heartbreak in a lovely essay that he did for the Fetzer Institute in 2005. And it was called The Politics of Brokenheartedness. Okay? So he says, your blessing, your breaking is a heartbreak. Now, is it a curse or a blessing to Parker? Okay? If it's a curse, you're going to get hard-hearted about this. And your heart is going to become brittle. And your breaking is going to explode that heart. And when it explodes, you're going to do harm to an awful lot of people, including yourself. And Parker would have you say, no, soften your heart, so it can be cloven, open, allowing the essence of your heart, which is love, to flow. So, the question is then, what is your gift of life? Does your path lead to it? Now, look at your toes and look at your gift, and where is it on your horizon? And if your toes aren't pointing at it, you know what? One of you is going to have to change. It's a fascinating image, So look and see where your gift is, and then turn your toes to it. It's not easy, but it works. It works beautifully. This is where hope groups come in, because this is the nature of hope group work, is to help people find their gift and see what they need to do to point their toes to it. Out of hope group work, I came up with 4 questions, largely based on what I learned from an entrepreneurial genius on success named Earl Nightingale, for whom success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And Nightingale's study of success, which he began at the age of 12, said to him that everyone is born with that worthy ideal, the gift. Okay? You see? We're not alone in that. There are a lot of people pointing at this. So progressive realization of a worthy ideal is his definition of success. And so then, out of all of that, we're saying, let's set up a hope life plan. Who are you? Well, we've answered that already. We've explored that. Haven't answered maybe, but explored. Why are you here? Well, we explored that one too. Now, the next question is, how are you going to get what you came for? Now we're looking at a life plan. And this is something that journaling, Julia Cameron's morning words in her book, The Artist's Way, will encourage you to sit down quietly first thing in the morning when your subconscious dreams are very close to the surface, and journal what's coming up for you. This is how you can start working on that question, how are you going to get what you came for? And finally, because, when you have a gift, you have a service to give. So what are you going to do with it when you have it? Same type of answering pattern that I just explored. This is your personal one. Now, anecdotally speaking, I was talking to a person who runs a very effective supportive system for people with cancer. And I said, well, in Hope Groups, we asked those 4 questions. And she said, well, we can't do that. What? We can't do that. That's therapeutic worker words. Oh, bless her. Yeah, they are therapeutic. But those 4 questions came right out of the business world and not out of any book of psychology. Those 4 questions. Who, why, how, what? Okay? Who, why, how, what? Summarize it, just that simple. Remember this, please. So, what's the reason for all of this? For me, it's all about art. You're a one-of-a-kind work of art. And the artist is two in number. One is universal life itself, and two is you. It's all about bringing you all together. It's interesting to note that this work of art that we call the world that we're living in didn't come into existence until about 4 billion years ago. How do we know that? We've got a bunch of curious human beings, and tell me you're not curious, because it's in the nature of human beings to be curious. We've got a bunch of curious human beings who have been trying to figure out the answers for this for thousands of years. How many creation stories have we got? Well, starting about 400 years ago, we got people beginning to get out, make special measuring sticks and measuring what was going on, with an idea of, if I measure this well enough and get enough information, I can actually decide for me what this is pointing to. There's a theory here. And so then I need to see if I can repeat it, and if I can repeat it, then the theory gets stronger and stronger and stronger. This is true. This is the scientific method. And you know what, friends? It's an incredibly spiritual process. Yeah, there's atheistic scientists, but there are an awful lot of them who believe in a created universe, and this is where we go. And these people, with their measuring instruments, have been able to track us back to a beginning 13¾ billion years ago, in a point of light, smaller than the head of a pin. And everything that is here today was there then, and it expanded at an incredible rate. And after 9 billion years, it started bringing together the dust that became our solar system. The point that I make here, friends, is that you're a work of art who was promised this life at the beginning of time. Or as James H.O.P.E, who was a lovely man who has worked with Amnesty International and has evolved beautifully, he says, you were born for a time such as this. In other words, look at it this way. The universe has been evolving for 13¾ billion years. And it has evolved itself into you. Right? The solar system came into being 4 billion of those years ago, and everything that was there then has contributed to being you. All right? Now, look around you. Can you find me there anywhere? Look back. Can you find yourself there? Look forward. Can you find yourself there? No. This is a once told tale, or a once danced dance, or a once sung song, or a once painted poetry. Absolutely wonderful. Beautiful. Now, sing me your song, dance me your dance, tell me your tale. Now I know who you are. Thank you. Oh, gratitude again. My friends, you, everyone, are participants in an evolving universe. And as you look at your own life, that's been evolving too, hasn't it? Okay? Evolution is more than a theory. It's a beautiful fact of relationship and creativity. So, the thing that we're going to do now that we have all of this is we're going to start listening. We're going to start listening to life, listening to ourselves, bringing that into an interaction, and then acting on it. Because, my friend, if you don't act on what you're hearing, then it's just static noise. But action, that makes it real. So the question then, the H.O.P.E question, if you will, is, all right, so action is what it's all about. Tell me, when are you going to start? How are you going to start? When? Okay. Want to work on those questions? You haven't got ready answers to it? Fine. That's what H.O.P.E groups are all about. H.O.P.E groups. They're small groups. They work like clearness committees, but they're not religious, they're not Quaker. They work like clearness committees. All of these lessons have come to me over the years. We've been invaded by people who've been deeply wounded. And me as a professional running open H.O.P.E groups, you call together your own personal clearness committee. Call it your own hope. I am Pat's hope group. I am Ken's hope group. So make this closed by invitation only. You know the quality of the people you're dealing with. And if somebody sneaks in with an unhealed agenda of woundedness and starts hurting people, the response is simple. You address it to the person in the group, and say, now, you need to get some changes, you need some professional help. We can't do this for you. So please, leave us now, and let us go on. And you go on and do your healing. That's what it really amounts to. And if a person says, I ain't going to do that, then you, who has convened the group, shut it down. Simple. You can convene it again somewhere else, some other time. But if you want to find more about this, go to www.hopehealing.org. It's all there. And we're building a new website so it'll be even more accessible. Where do we go from here? Let's expand our view. And Pierre Teilhard de Chardin to Gene Houston in Central Park, about a few weeks before he died. Gene, we are not human beings in search of a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings immersed in a human condition. So look there, right there. Healing a person's exceptional is the words that we have for the acronym. All right? You and I are persons, and no two of us are alike, and we've explored the healing. We have a story behind the large rainbow, and it's up on the website. We have a story behind the butterfly, and it's up on the website. We've been given those, and we honor the people who gave them to us. That logo was given to us. And so we honor the woman who gave it to us. We honor our ancestors as we move on into the future. Thank you for